In this diagram, there are two ellipses. The one on the left-hand side of the screen stretches horizontally, while the other one stretches vertically. When an ellipse stretches horizontally, its major axis lies along the x-axis of the Cartesian coordinate system. In contrast, when it stretches vertically, its major axis lies along the y-axis. In this diagram, the major axis is highlighted in blue, while the minor axis is highlighted in green. As you can see, the major axis is longer than the minor axis, which is why they have these names. This property gives the ellipse its distinct elongated shape. In this diagram, we can see the four main orientations of a parabola, namely upwards, downwards, to the left, and to the right. In the top left corner, we have a parabola that opens upwards with its arms extending infinitely towards the top of the screen. In a parabola that opens upwards, the vertex is the lowest point on the parabola, and the arms of the parabola rise on both sides. In contrast, in the top right corner, we have a parabola that opens downwards with its arms extending infinitely toward the bottom of the screen. This is another vertical parabola, but this time, the vertex is the highest point on the parabola, and the arms of the parabola descend on both sides. Now let's move to the horizontal parabolas. In the bottom left corner, we have a parabola that opens to the left, with its arms extending infinitely toward the left side of the screen. In a parabola that opens to the left, the vertex is the rightmost point on the parabola, and the top arm rises as it moves away from the vertex while the bottom arm descends. Finally, in the bottom right corner, we have a parabola that opens to the right, with its arms extending infinitely toward the right side of the screen. In a parabola that opens to the right, the vertex is the leftmost point on the parabola, and the top arm rises as it moves away from the vertex while the bottom arm descends. In this diagram, there are two hyperbolas. The one on the left-hand side of the screen opens horizontally, while the other one opens vertically. When a hyperbola opens horizontally, its transverse axis lies along the x-axis of the Cartesian coordinate system. In contrast, when it opens vertically, its transverse axis lies along the y-axis. In this diagram, the transverse axis is highlighted in blue, while the conjugate axis is highlighted in green. In a hyperbola, the transverse axis can be longer than, shorter than, or equal to the conjugate axis. The longer the transverse axis is compared to the conjugate axis, the narrower the opening of the two branches of the hyperbola. Conversely, the shorter the transverse axis is compared to the conjugate axis, the wider the opening of the two branches of the hyperbola, and the straighter the two branches. If the transverse axis and the conjugate axis are equal in length, the hyperbola becomes a rectangular hyperbola, and its two asymptotes are perpendicular. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.